Hello everyone, welcome to the sportslawsage podcast. My name is Tushar Katheria. I will be your host for this episode. In today's episode, we have our guest, Dan Wallach from the United States. Dan is a practicing sports lawyer in the state of New York. He graduated from the Fordham Law School and later he joined Geragos Geragos in their New York City office. Dan is also a sports law professor and a visiting faculty at the New York Law School. Apart from this, he is also a co-host for the Conduct Detrimental Podcast. I hope you will enjoy this episode. Hello, Dan. My first question would be for you. How was the journey towards your sports law, and when did you realize that you want to make a career in such a niche area of law? So can you please explain about it?
Sure. I've always wanted to work in sports, even when I was growing up. And just kind of coincidentally, I have a family of lawyers. So like my dad's a lawyer. My sister went into law. My brother-in-law, my uncle, and my wife, everyone around me is in the legal field. So not such a stretch when you're a super sports fan and everyone around you is lawyers. Those are the two worlds I had grown up around. Decided to go to law school. Enough people around me told me that getting a graduate degree, whether it be a business degree or a law degree, that would be very helpful. It's just kind of how everything worked out.
All right. So till now, how was your experience as a sports attorney in New York? Because there's a dream for every person to work to establish their practice in the state of New York. So how was the experience till now?
Having my practice in the state of New York?
Yeah.
I don't know. New York is not, New York is not necessarily all that it's cracked up to be. I'm from so there's the New York City, which is, the place that you see in the movies. And then, the rest of New York is a lot of grass. It's not that much concrete. So I live in the suburbs, with a lot of trees. It's not really what is resembled on television. But it's fun working, and I work in New York City, so that part's fun. But yeah, I mean, Tushar, as you know, a lot of the stuff I do is kind of, Zoom based. Like I speak on the radio, I can speak at different colleges. I do a lot of it over Zoom. Okay. So a lot of what I do is I can really do it anywhere. I can sit in my basement as I am now and speak to you like I'm speaking to you now.
Yeah. So in US, that US universities plays an important role in the sports industry, especially they back their students to participate in the different games. Recently, Valerie Allman, she won the gold medal in the discus throw event, and she graduated from the Stanford University. So how you look into this? Can you please explain? Because in India, there's some kind of lacking between. There's a whole huge gap between the US these Indian universities and these prominent players who want to make their career in the sports market. So can you please explain about it?
The pro sports market? I'm not sure I understand the question.
Okay, so let me repeat it. So you see the US universities plays an important role in the sports industry. So this is the first part of our question. And the second part is how these US universities plays really important role to back their players. They want their students to participate in the international events. Recently, Valerie Allman, she's an Olympic gold medalist. She's a graduated from the Stanford University. So please tell me how we can promote the Indian players through the Indian universities.
Yeah, I guess a couple things. So certainly, I mean, I'm not sure of the how universities sports kind of work overseas, but at least here, colleges and universities are kind of a feeder system into the professional levels. So if you perform, there's football, basketball, baseball. Those sports are played at the collegiate level. So if you certainly play well, if you're the best in your sport, be it basketball or running, anything like that. To the extent that there is a professional sport, you can usually kind of filter in. Certainly a little bit different when it comes to a sport like, like running or like the discus throw, where there's not necessarily a professional, at least as far as maybe I could be wrong. I'm happy to be wrong. I'm not sure if there's like a very well-known discus league or, running league. So yeah, team sports seems to be a pretty easy system. You could come from any walk of life. Just as in baseball, like, I don't know, the baseball players sometimes come internationally from like Dominican Republic or any type of overseas countries, and they can just come directly into the majors. You don't have to go to college or anything like that. So certainly depends a little bit on the sport. But yeah, I remember there was a documentary, like it was these Indian baseball players, right?
Yeah.
The Golden Arm, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
They were javelin throwers,
Yeah.
and then they tried to make them play baseball. I don't know. The truth is, like, at least in baseball, if you can throw a baseball 100 miles an hour, like, doesn't really matter who you are. Like, that's going to pop on the radar of scouts, and they're going to try to coach you. So that was the premise of that movie. I have to watch it now. Now that we're talking about it, they made a movie out of it years later.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, certainly talent's going to win out, but to get on the right radars, it certainly helps to go to a very prestigious university like Stanford or any big school. That'll certainly help get on the radars.
All right. So I want to ask this very personal question from my side. What are the books and materials which you will recommend for the people who want to understand the sports market, especially in the United States?
Books and materials?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just going to give you an honest answer. So I'll pretend that you asked me what things should you be studying, because books and materials is a little bit different. I don't know. I never was a big book person growing up. I watched a lot, and I still do. I watch a lot of documentaries. I know a lot about the history of the sport. I'm a professor, so I should be reading a lot, but I read a lot as a lawyer. So I try for, the class that I teach at New York Law School in the city, I give them a lot of audio. Like I give them podcasts. Sometimes I'll give them videos, but the rest of their teachers give them a lot of reading, and I don't find reading to be any necessarily different. Sometimes there's some studies that you retain information better by hearing it audibly. So if you're hearing it and watching it like a video, you're going to dissect it a little bit better than a book. So, what books should you study, for sports law? I mean, sports law is still kind of a growing field. I personally, I'm a really big sports history buff. So there's a lot of documentaries out that are on the kind of intersection of sports and law that like are not necessarily legal stories, but they're about it. Like, I'll give you the short answer is like our website, Tushar, as called Conduct Detrimental. We have people that are writing about all types of issues, like soccer issues, aka football, or in the NFL or Major League Baseball, Olympics. So I think, I wouldn't necessarily think a book is going to be any better than any particular website that you could find that has sports law articles. Yeah, but I think like Formula One is a good one. Tushar, are you a Formula One fan?
Yeah, I am.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to random example. I didn't know anything about Formula One up until about a year and a half ago. I didn't know anything about it. Do you know Drive to Survive? Have you seen that on Netflix? You're familiar with it?
Not now, not till now.
What they did, I don't know. Again, I don't know anything about Formula One. Drive to Survive was a series that they put out on a docu-series on Netflix, and it just profiled all the different drivers. So we just learned about the drivers, and I'm like, okay. So there's no book I read on Formula One, but I went on YouTube and I looked at all the old seasons with like Michael Schumacher and Senna and like Jensen Button. Yeah,
Jensen Button. Yeah.
And I just was binging YouTube videos, so I know as much. I feel like I know a lot about Formula One. I didn't read any books. I just dove into the subject. So, don't think that just reading one thing is going to be enough. I would tell anybody, if you're interested in a particular area, go down the YouTube rabbit hole, just the black hole, and just get lost there. I think that's the best way to learn something, just immerse yourself fully in it. But one book's not going to one can necessarily do that for you. So yeah, I mean, just I would get creative, podcast, YouTube. Also, probably I'm talking too much, but like sometimes for podcasts, I just I'll put them on double speed.
Yeah.
I try to pick up as much as I can pick up. Yeah, I'm always trying to learn, always learning different things.
Okay, so till now, what I read about it in the U.S. Sports illegal market, there's two books which I'm reading right now. There's one Anita M. Moment's book, a sports law book, and there's one more advanced introduction to the sports law, which is written by Stephen F. Ross. He's from the Pennsylvania State University. He's a professor right now. I think.
I know. I've heard of both of them.
Yeah, so the advanced introduction book, it's quite short, but it is very specific book and it's a very advanced level. So I think referring the Anytime Movements book would be really helpful for me.
Are you telling me I should write a book? Is that
Yeah,
what you're
you should write a book, sir. Please. We will love to we will love to review it. I'm sure, because right now in India especially, it's a growing market right now. From the last 10 to 15 years, we are seeing such a huge booming market right now. ISL is booming. Cricket, the Indian Premier League has already established their market. When India won the World Cup in 1983, then in 2007 they again revived the cricket, and now 2011 was a golden period. That was a golden era because we have such a golden generation players at that time. And yeah, so right now, can you please tell about the Conduct Detrimental, how you started, and then how you come up with the idea to let's start with the website and start the blogging, and now it's
You're smiling. I feel like this is a question you're interested in.
Yeah.
I'm happy to.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a little bit of a brief background. So when I was in law school, Tushar, let me ask you, do you guys have like sports law societies at school?
We have a sports law cell, or a sports cell specifically, who are responsible for conducting the different sports event, sport fairs, or the college fairs.
But you have a group when you're in schools. There's like a group of specific sports like law students.
Not right now, but
yeah.
From the last 2 to 3 years, the Indian law schools are trying to set up their sports law center right now. So they want to promote more about the sports law. We have a really good professors right now. There is Tarun from GNNLU Gandhinagar. There's Subhajit Chanda, and very prominent lawyers like Nandan Kamath. He's one of the best sports lawyer right now in India, and there's Anish Dayal. The follow-up right now. So there's a really huge potential right now in India that it will grow in next 10 to 15 years.
So yeah, I mean, my background when I was at law school, I was bringing a lot of speakers into school to do little, panels or lunch and learns, whatever, marketing set, whatever it was. But I couldn't, I don't know, I wasn't able to get a true sports law job out of school. So, but I had this really strong, robust network. One of the people I met, just while I was not working in the sports law field, just as a normal lawyer, I met Dan Wallach, back in 2014, right around there. And so, I didn't know Dan. Dan didn't know me, but I was seeing Dan post a lot on Twitter about sports betting laws. Well, and he would post about, normal domestic sports, but he was posting a lot. So I thought it was cool. He wasn't really, getting that much traction, but I thought it was cool that he was showing this effort and this persistence. So I reached out to him and I said, "Hey, I just graduated. Dan's about 20 years older than me. 20? He's between, whatever. We'll say he's more than 10.
Yes.
I'm not sure how much older. I probably should know that, but I don't. But yeah, so I reached out to Dan and I said, if you ever need help with anything, I just graduated from Fordham Law School in New York City, and I know the people that run that organization. So, Dan, if you ever wanted to speak at Fordham, I used to coordinate that, so I'm happy to help you." So I just kind of had a random act of kindness for Dan. I didn't know him. And I helped him out, and I got him on to the Fordham's Sports Law Symposium panel. We met there. I wasn't a student anymore. I was a first year, graduate or second year graduate. And, I did him a favor just for no reason. I just respected what he was doing. So we stayed in touch on and off over the years, 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19. And so 2019, Tushar, is when I started to post a lot on social media about these sports cases. I've always been active on social media, but I wasn't posting about sports. I was posting about technology, and I was doing seminars on legal technology, not really related. But I had been publishing in legal tech for maybe 2-3 years before that. So anyway, once I started to kind of get some traction publishing in sports law and doing radio and speaking to students and speaking to different law schools, Dan reached out and he said he invited me to join his podcast, Conduct Detrimental. So there was a period of time where Conduct Detrimental was a fully functioning podcast with Dan Wallach and his old co-host of his. So that old co-host left the show maybe in like 2017, right around there. So for 2 years, the show didn't exist. It just was kind of like Dan would post an episode every 4 or 5 months, and it wasn't a real show. It was just whenever Dan got around to podcasting. So when Dan offered for me to join him, I said, okay, I'll join you. But the way I listen to podcasts, and I listen to a ton of podcasts, you have to be predictable. It has to be once a week, maybe sometimes twice a week. If there's something big that occurs, we have to cover it. So that's how you cover that intersection. You can't just, hey, something's going to happen once every 4 months, pop on, you're going to lose your whole audience. So there has to be some level of predictability. And then, beyond that, so for a year of doing the podcast, we were growing an audience slowly but surely. I would go to law schools and I would get invited to speak at law schools because I'm very active on social media and I'm trying to show that I know any kind of current event that's happening in sports law. And after about a year of doing the podcast, I had this epiphany, and Dan had always thought this, but to make a website. And Tushar, I do a lot of stuff. I don't have time to run a website myself. I do podcasts, I do radio. Sometimes now, more recently, I'm doing more television, but I certainly don't have time to write, 100 different articles while being a full-time attorney. Just something wasn't going to add up. So then I had this epiphany that we would invite our listeners, people that listen to the podcast, to write articles. So I thought about it, like, we don't make any money from the website. And I said, I don't know, people want to get quote unquote publishing credit. I'm happy to make them a published author. I know I was able to get where I am in sports law because of my writing, and I would just write on LinkedIn 90% of the time. Yeah. That's I think how you and I met. I just would write a lot on LinkedIn. Yeah. And I said, there's a friend of mine who now he's a friend of mine. At the time, he was just a law student he was a young lawyer that reached out, and he got a job in Major League Baseball because he was writing a lot in Major League Baseball. And that was my advice. I said, you have to write. If you want to separate yourself from all of these other applicants, you need to write. So he got a job with the team, the Washington Nationals, the big baseball team here. And then after that, I'm like, I need to give back in some way and allow people to write. And then I'll reshare it, I'll repost it, and I'll make sure people see it. But yeah, and then I just use my platform to try to pump up the people on the website. So when someone, has an article that does really well, I send them to the website. When I have an appearance on a news station, I said, check out our great writers on the website. So that's, kind of like a quid pro quo. You write it, I will bring people to try to read it. So yeah, that's kind of, Dan does the same thing. Wallach, he goes on radio appearances. He said, check out conductdetrimental.com. So yeah, it's certainly a ton of work to build it up, but we've made some really good progress. So it's only really been about 3 months since we started.
Yeah. So, can you please explain how now social media has become a really important, a key ingredient for lawyers now, because this pandemic impacted a lot of lawyers in their practice area. So, how you see the power of social media now, specifically for the lawyers' point of view?
I think social media is incredibly important. I'll just give you. I won't give you. I was going to give you an example. I probably shouldn't. But when I post something on LinkedIn, not everybody likes it, which is fine. But everybody can see the numbers on their post views on LinkedIn, and for every 100 people that view something of mine, I'm giving you a rough number, maybe one person will like it. So, but some of my stuff, now that I have more of a following, I'll get like 3,000 views, and maybe that's only 30 likes, which is fine. I don't know. If I got one like, that's fine. It doesn't matter. If I think it's important, I'll post it anyway. But 3,000 views, I don't know. People don't have to like it. They'll see your name enough. So, the quick story of mine. I never liked sending the emails like for clients. Like, hey, or jobs, like, hey, just following up, wondering if you have any, cases to send me for jobs, or hey, just following up, wondering if, you can, if you're ready to hire me, or whatever I was going to write. But the follow-up email after you have a really good meeting with someone, or you meet someone at a conference, I always just felt that next email was so awkward. And let's say they said, no, I don't have anything at this time, but follow up with me. Then the next email is even more awkward. And then after a while, you don't want to send the email, even though the person might mean well. It's just felt bad doing it. So those emails that I was sending was just to stay on that person's radar, just so they would think about me. So I don't know how I've intuitively kind of used LinkedIn. I post a lot. I try to find interesting things to post about so people don't think I'm an idiot. But I try to stay present in people's vernacular. So when people think of a sports law story, any one of them, people think of me because I do it. Sometimes I'll post like 5 times a week. You and Tushar, you don't follow me on Twitter. I am posting a lot on Twitter. Probably too much.
But I follow your account through our official blogging website, so I'm following through that.
You do follow on Twitter?
Yeah, I do follow on YouTube too.
I have a lot of posts on Twitter.
Yeah,
I post a lot.
Yeah.
So at least for me, let's say I post 10 things on Twitter. Maybe 3 of those will get to Instagram, just whichever ones I think are, to do well. And then of whichever of those 3 will do well on Instagram, I'll move that over to LinkedIn. So I like a lot on Twitter, a little bit, a very kind of few on Instagram, and like almost very little on LinkedIn. But I'll only post stuff on LinkedIn that I think has done well on the other platforms. So, LinkedIn's a little bit different. So I know I have real friends on LinkedIn that I know in real life. Instagram, of course. Twitter, a little bit different. Yeah. My friends really aren't on Twitter. It's a nice. I have Twitter friends, like legitimate Twitter friends in the Twitter community, but not that many people I necessarily know in real life.
So there's one thing. There's one lawyer from India. I forgot his name. Yeah, Ahana Malhotra. She shared this one thing that people who are following sports law, the first thing in the morning they need to just post something on sports law. Like there's a one news which is recently came on this Pandora Papers leaks which happened right now, in the Indian most famous sports personalities name was coming to the picture about the corruption that they are doing right now, the offshore accounts they established in various countries where you see there's a levy on taxes right now. So yeah, I think this really helped to build your profile, as well as you are keep updating yourself, as well as you are creating a community in Twitter, Instagram, and also in LinkedIn. And right now that this TikTok is also booming right now, but in India it's already got banned. So yeah, it's not.
Oh, it's banned?
Yeah, it's banned.
I don't use TikTok, so it's banned for me too.
Yeah. So yeah. Thank you everyone for hooking up till the end of this podcast. If you do really like this episode, make sure that you like, follow and subscribe our channel. We also have our official social media platforms where you always find news related to the sports law. Also, we have our official website where we publish blogs. You can also find videos and podcasts and all the necessary information which is required for a sports lawyer. We will meet soon in our next episode. Until then, goodbye everyone.